So pretty recently, I made this, and as I was making it, I figured it could also be a good video topic, so here we are. Now one thing to note is that CX isn't actually terrible or anything. Like, you could certainly use it, but is it that good? That's where the problem is. And no, I don't think CX beats the Potential Man allegations. So to set the stage here, we have to go all the way back to February of 2025. This is back when CX was first announced, and most people, not me, were very excited for it. I could definitely see why, because UX felt very similar to BX when it first came out, at least structurally, so CX felt very new, it was something interesting to look forward to, and that was kind of the sentiment of the time until March when these actually came out. The first wave of CX was pretty rough, and there were immediately a couple problems. First up, assist blades added extra height. There are also different heights of assist blades, with something like slash being shorter than round and bumper, so it immediately became preferable because you want your base shorter. And that's the other problem, is having the main blade be as tall as it is a horrible thing. Main blades are thinner than BX and UX blades generally, so the metal is already concentrated higher up to begin with, and unlike UX, there's no pure outer weight distribution going on either, meaning that the stamina and general balance of these things is not great. There were some parts people did like. People thought Brave had potential, but unfortunately Slash kind of held it back, as Slash felt like it blocked off some of the main contact points of Brave, so we had to wait for another assist blade to actually make this thing usable. However, some people said Arc had solid potential for attack, and that was where Slash could go, making a functional CX combo, but Arc Slash was never actually all that good. And while maybe Slash could have more potential on a later main blade, I feel like it never really got that chance, as better parts just came out. Yeah, the first wave of CX was kind of a disaster. The system itself clearly had some issues, and those initial bays they chose to actually represent the line were not helping. Then in April we had Hell's Reaper and Rhino Reaper. The Reaper main blade just wasn't really that good, and Charge, as an assist blade from Rhino, also wasn't very good. Even though it wasn't as short as Slash, it felt like Turn could have some potential. It was kind of round, felt pretty decent. It never really got its chance because of something like Wheel that came out eventually, but it's at least worth noting. Then in May we had Fox Brush. This is the bay we were all waiting for. Brush wasn't really that good, but the assist blade had some solid potential. This led to people using Brave Jaggy. Brave Jaggy is a pretty solid attack blade, when it was released anyway. It wasn't really the savior that people were hoping it was, but of course you saw people really coping over CX and claiming it was great when it really wasn't, but again, you could use it. It was like a B tier blade back then. CX just isn't getting to that point that people wanted it to be. However, that would change very quickly. In July we had this trifecta of releases. Well, and Whale Flame, but who cares about Massive? Anyway, the trifecta consists of Pegasus Blast, Cerberus Flame, and Valkyrie Bolt, each having one really important part. The other parts don't really matter as much, like Assault isn't great, Flame's too hollow to actually be good, Volt is just kind of another Brave situation, but those don't matter. The real goal of these three was to assemble Valkyrie Blast Wheel. Blast had a shape that could just be used for kind of anything you want. You could use it for attack, defense, balance, whatever. Then Wheel was very tall, but its extremely large circular shape just made it good anyway. It was also fairly heavy, as was Blast. And then there's the Valkyrie lock chip, which would make the bay even heavier. Every other lock chip to this point was just the same, but with a different sticker, but Valkyrie would make the bay heavier, making this the best blade in the game. Or at least it was supposed to be. Valkyrie wasn't actually that good. I mean, you can certainly use it, and it's fine for weight bullying stuff, sure, but it really struggles with its stamina. Adding even more metal towards the center of the blade, and having it be that high up, just makes the balance even worse. It's still fine in balance combos, sure, but it's not the monster people were hoping it to be. That said, Blast Wheel with any other lock chip was still a good blade to use. I don't think this was ever actually top tier, unlike what some people might claim, but it was still a very good blade, and to this day it's still a very good blade. I'd say it's like very high tier, but it is actually a top tier blade compared to all the insane UX stuff, and even some BX stuff that we got. No. But it was finally something actually good for CX. Don't get used to it though. Moving on to September, we had Soul Eclipse. The dual assist blade kind of ended up just being another kind of turn situation. Maybe could do something, but wasn't really that important ever. At best, maybe pair well with Eclipse. Speaking of, Eclipse felt like it could probably be a good part, especially with that down smash mode. I mean, CX is already tall as is, so why not take advantage of that and have a blade focused on down smashing? And while Eclipse is certainly a solid, usable blade, again, it's another blade that just doesn't really get over that barrier of some of the best bays in Beyblade X, and is kind of another like B tier-ish blade. Moving on to November, we have Wolf Hunt, Emperor Might, and Leon Fang. Leon Fang just did nothing. Fang is mid, doesn't have a unique assist blade either, which unfortunately was not fixed with the Hasbro version. However, Wolf Hunt and Emperor Might actually did have some potential. The Hunt main blade is again kinda whatever, but the free assist blade and pretty much everything from Emperor Might again had some potential. So first up we had the free assist blade from Wolf Hunt. It was free spinning, that could be good. Unfortunately something like this is only going to be good for like stamina or defense stuff, and stamina CX stuff just doesn't really work. Defense does, but really, you're just better off using wheel, and there's not much of a point of putting more than one CX bait in your deck. And then everything for Emperor Might was seen as having some potential. The Emperor lock chip was seen as another and much easier way to get a metal lock chip. While Valkyrie wasn't perfect, there is still some attack or balance potential for metal lock chips, so having another one is good. It's also a bit lighter, so you could argue that it actually has better stamina than Valkyrie, but at that point who really cares? It's certainly usable though. Then there's the Might main blade. People thought this might be the new replacement for Blast on wheel, and really, it just feels like a bootleg Blast. Like, it's almost as good, but again, you're better off just using Blast wheel. The big thing here though is the heavy assist blade. This has the 2 strips of metal underneath, which not only makes heavy, well, a heavy assist blade, but it also means there's some weight a bit lower, which technically does bring down the center of gravity a little bit, making it a pretty effective assist blade. The other parts are fine, but heavy is finally our second truly good assist blade, which could also be paired with blast if you wanted it to be. But also it does make pretty much any attack or even balance oriented combo better. I mean really you could use it on defense as well if you want to. But for something like Brave, it's actually kind of usable. Again, does it get to that point of being like very high tier? I would say no, but it is still kind of a buff for other main blades. Probably still best on Blast. Blast Wheel and Blast Heavy is basically your best shot at making a truly good CX blade. Moving on to 2026, in January we had Phoenix Flare. The Flare main blade just kind of feels like a budget Blast. I'd argue probably a bit below Might as well. And then Zillion is kind of budget Wheel. It's a perfectly fine blade, but it's just not as good as Blast Wheel. It definitely had some potential, but just doesn't get over that point. And then we get to March. This gave us the CX Expand Blades, and surely this would do it, this would save CX. Well, overblades are basically worthless. You can argue balance tuning or whatever else, but really, they don't do much. Oh, and none of the assist blades here are all that good. There's just better options. And even Fortress, which isn't terrible, just feels like you get more out of something like Blast Wheel or, better yet, a UX blade. The 2 most notable parts coming out of this are probably the 2 metal blades, Blitz and Rage. Blitz has 5-sided but is concentrated to one specific point, meaning that it does have some attack potential. And Blitz is definitely something that you can use, but even with heavy, how good is it? Well, again, it's another good blade, probably like B tier, but it's just not getting over that point with the best blades. And then there's Rage. I'm sorry, Rage is just Arc too. It's just not that good. Like, you can use it, but really, what's the point? And now we get to April with our newest CX release, that being Unicorn Delta. First up, the odd assist blade is terrible, but aside from that, Delta seems to be a pretty solid metal blade. It has some potential, and I imagine you'd probably want to use it with Peak for the very slight weight shift. I saw Delta getting a lot of hype when it first came out, but unfortunately, like Blitz, I feel like it's kind of fallen off. Yes, it is still a good blade to use, it's still fine, but again, is it actually hitting those top tiers? Not really. It's just another CX blade that gets hyped up, and after a few weeks kind of just gets dropped and is considered good, but that's about it. But after looking at every CX bay, it's pretty clear that CX has a lot of bays that are good, and you can use them, but it really struggles to actually crack top tier. Again, I think Blast Wheel or Blast Heavy is really the best chance you got. Beyond that, you could throw pretty much whatever at Heavy, Brave, Volt, Blitz, Delta, whatever. And technically you could just use whatever bay you want. Like, you can make a Terrell combo and just use it because you enjoy it, that's fine. But if we're talking about what's really good, then yeah, I don't think CX does too well. Also, CX being the way it is, I feel like it also just doesn't work as well for just casual play, because even if you're just playing for fun, having your bay constantly just fall over and lose by stamina finish isn't ideal. But with all that said, I do want to go ahead and look at this meme I made, and by looking at it and explaining it, it's going to be extremely unfunny, but I'm too deep in at this point. So first up, people always really like to say that the newest CX release saves CX. Gets a lot of hype, like I said, for the first couple weeks. You'll see everyone talking about it. And conveniently, they also tend to plug their discount code or store or whatever to tell you to try it for yourself before abandoning it within a couple weeks. I'm sure there's no correlation at all there. There's also the low ratchet argument. I think this makes some sense, as going below 50 height could be a bit questionable, but on CX you can use a 50 ratchet and then a low bit or something to go lower, and that can actually make it better. So low ratchets do actually help CX, but do they completely change the game, make them actually good? No. they still have balance problems. You'll still be making a lot of contact with assist blades, which isn't ideal. So yes, it does help them, but is it the savior of CX? No. I've also seen the skill-based argument, which is just kind of funny, honestly. Like, yeah, winning an uphill battle is technically skill-based, you could say. If you use Rhino Horn to win, is it skill? Maybe. More likely luck. But if your goal is to win via skill, then really the best skill is to be smart and just use a better blade. Metal over blades, I more so just put this in as a joke. Might help with attack, but really it just makes balance worse. Shorter assist blades can actually help, but I just don't think they'll do them at this point. It's been over a year. Will they actually fix this problem? Probably not. There is some potential there, but unless they actually do it, it's not really worth thinking about. I think the top right's the only other thing I want to address here, as anything else is just kind of a meme. And yeah, the whole zero results and relevancy thing is also kind of a joke. Again, CX has done some stuff, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not as good as it should have been. However, the 7 B tier blades thing, yeah, that's just true. Like, CX constantly just hits like B tier and just, like I've been saying, does not get above that, except with like one exception. But yeah, I think that's everything I have to say at this point. I just think CX is really mid. At best can be good, but not great. Will it actually ever improve beyond this point? I have no idea. I thought maybe CX Expand Blades would do something, but really they haven't. I think Blast on Wheel or Heavy is probably still your best bet, and I think the Delta hype is probably about dead at this point, and if not, probably will be very soon. But we do have Brachio coming out in about a week, so surely that'll be the savior of CX, right? Yeah, that's everything I have for the video, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.